Hey, fellas. And like two ladies. I like to make fun of that, right? Come on, ladies. You got to start watching this stuff. All right. Cub Cadet, part 3. Part 1, all right, we kind of dug the thing out, cleaned it up, get an evaluation, and then I actually went live and did the diagnostic, and that's when we found out we had a bad head, and it ate the valve seat. Valve seat came out, right? So you might want to check that out. I edited up the live, and I edited up the live and left the live up, which is kind of neat because it's got some different things in it, and then I really cut the crap out of it, and then I stuck it into part 1 of this series. So at the end of part 1, we went outside, and I have another Cub Cadet. And we went and drug that thing out, cleaned it up a little bit, evaluated it, and we took the head off of it. But unfortunately, the head, there was somebody was in it, again, somebody else was in it, and they broke an exhaust bolt, and then they mashed in some other bolt and loose, and it was a mess. So part 2 is we had to go over that, get that bolt out properly, and so we were successful at that. So part 3, here we are. Okay, I'm showing you a little bit, of the cleanup of that and finishing up. And then, so that's pretty good. And then in this very beginning of this episode, we got to test to make sure the exhaust system is going to fit and which one fits properly because somebody screwed it up. You'll see what I'm talking about. But we tighten up everything and make sure that what I did with restoring the threads is going to work. And then we took I'm taking the valves out and just kind of cleaning up the head and going over it. And so I'm going to show you guys a little bit about that, lapping the valves in and taking a look at the valves. But we're also in this episode, we're going to go over what I think may have happened to the original head and why the seat came out. Also on a live show and in a previous episode, I talked about the theories about why this happened. And we're going to talk a bit more about that. And I have some more evidence to show you, some bluing and whatever. And you're going to see that in this episode. There's a few different things that I comment on. We'll take a little closer look at that head. I didn't take the valve out or anything because it's like, I kind of like the way it looks, right? It's showing it to Mikey and a few other people. I'm like, look at this thing in A to Z, right? But we're going to go in there and take a look at that, finish cleaning up the head, and then basically pop it down on the table. And we can say, all right, we've got something now that we can move forward and bolt on to the engine and take the project to the next step. So in this episode, we're going to just finish up the head. Part 4 will be installing it, going over it, a little bit more issues. And there might be a part 5 because there's a lot of things wrong with this Cub Cadet. Like it is nice and you'll see it when I'm fully done with it. But people have been in it and then they just leave it to sit and they don't maintain it and they just make a mess of things. All right, let me get started with the video. I'll see you guys in a bit. All right, unfortunately, we cannot test the muffler on that rig over there. There's not enough room. But we can do it here, and you can see it's a little bit borked in there. We couldn't put a helicoil in that, and I got it just right. We went down just right to the bottom. There's enough room to put a helicoil on that, but before we do, because we can put a little Loctite, and if we get the whole thing set up right, we shouldn't have a problem. Don't forget, this holds it on too, and the guy didn't even have that on there. So let's do a full setup. Let me just thread. I bet you he screwed these up. Yup, that one's screwed up. It's all borked. Let me clean this up. All right, this is all borked right here. All right, let me get the bolts for that. I'll do that. I'll get this cleaned up, this and this, and we can come back in. Yeah, he really borked this up. So this is the time to do it. Stand by. Possible cracks, get rid of that. Yeah, that's good. Put a file on that. Let me run a tap in through this. Now, of course, this is metric. I lost a little bar for that. I have others, but I don't feel like looking for it. Let's just roll this in. Yeah, it's a little messed up. I keep saying, you know, I don't like it when, you know, I try to tell people, like, you don't use those banger tools because you're not going to know if you started it straight, and you need some hand feel, you know, like how tight should you make it. When I first started fooling around with hot rods and stuff, running brass fittings and things for oil and fuel, and I started doing like plumbing and gas lines, like, you need to know how tight. Just want to feel what's going on here. There's a burr over here. I know it's going to be a little bit blown out, shiny. There it is. Just dress it out. Yeah, rough handling. Damaged in shipping. A little over here. It's a little sloppy. We have extras, so I can. The longer ones are used in here. The shorter ones, oddly, are used here, which is stupid. So we made that is actually stupid. Why would you switch that? If anything, you want a longer one here because of the stress. This is just a rocker cover. All right, we're going to make note of that. Make note. Now we can throw something in here. All right, so the bottom one is the one that it got cheesed. Well, like I said, we're just doing a mock-up. So you kind of have to put these in first. You can leave the other ones loose. That seems to work. Don't forget, we also have a gasket. So, yeah, bang that in with the banger gun. I want to make sure it's getting tight. Feels like it is. It feels like it could go in a little bit deeper. Like we could have more threads. Okay? And now with the gasket, it'll be okay. But yeah, we could have grabbed a few more threads. All right, let's just see what we get. Oh, a little bit more. All right, we need more threads. All right, so we're not going to be able to do that. So what we want, but it feels tight. What we want is a very light, let's just turn these in a little bit. A very light washer. And there's plenty of room for a washer. So again, this is why we test all of this. This hole is in decent shape. There's a good amount of grab there, right? So we should be okay. Yeah, it could have gone in just a little bit more, but it could have also went in and came out the other side on something. And that would have sucked. Let me go find a washer. I got 2 lock washers. Okay, so one for each bolt. Okay. Turn that in. Yeah, there's plenty of room for grab. And I still would want to use a little bit of blue tight. Okay, this is getting nice and tight. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, let's see. Oh yeah, that's tight. Let me take the other one out. All right, the other one's loose. I ain't going nowhere, fellas. That is on there. Yeah, we're good. Yeah, we are good. And the other one will get a washer as well. A lock washer. And I would say we are real golden because these are not tight. Yeah, these should be longer. I think we're going to go grab the longer ones for here. So remind me about that. And they're not even quite lined up right either. So I might want to look at the other muffler. We want to see which muffler lines up the best. So I think I'll do that now too. But that's on there. Let me go check the other muffler because there could be slight differences. And it could also be because it wasn't mounted right, it could have moved. And we don't want to force this because that's not quite lined up right. It seemed like it was okay. If not, then we're going to want to drill this bracket if they're sort of both like that. Oh yeah, this one fits better. All right, it just does. And with the longer bolts, so basically thread everything in, get it started, and then I would come over here and just kind of align these a little bit. All right. And with the longer bolt, quite longer too. I'm over here, you. I'm trying to hold it at the same time. Remember now, you're going to be hanging it. All right, so sort of snug. Nothing fancy. And it gets to allow it to move if it needs to. And then tighten the actual muffler flange here. That looks good there. All right. Yeah, that feels good. Remember, the bottom is the beat one. Or beater. Let me see. This will get nice and tight. Yep. And I don't know what the torque is, but we wouldn't want to torque that now. And don't forget, the gasket's not in yet. I'm going to put a little bit of RTV on the gasket too before I go in tonight. That's nice. Okay. All right. Now I can take this back off. We know what we need, what we have, and what we should do. And we are at least back to something usable. I'd say that repair is a success. Little bit of a beat head. This is probably the worst part of the whole thing. Now, what are we going to do? All right, we're working with used parts. Obviously, somebody really screwed these two machines up, which is why we have them, right? It's why I have them. And that's why we're working on it. See you guys in a minute. I gotta adjust my tool a little bit. My tool, but it's automotive style, but it works. Because I have all kinds of different ends and stuff that I've made and whatever over the years. Let's see. The lock just falls right out, but once you get it adjusted, okay, the lock just falls right out. And once it's adjusted, see how it stays in place. So I could take the valve in and out and do what I got to do. So there's our lock. Okay, that's good to go. Everything is filthy. What's going on there? We got a little bit of a seal here. And let me make sure that there's no burr or anything. So let's put a little bit of lubricant on that seal. What we used to do is, actually there's an insert that you can put so that you don't damage the seal. Oh, this is like clean. This doesn't even look like it's even been used. Oh my God. All right, we're going to clean these up real quick. Just going to run this thing down in there real fast. A few other spots. This like, look how clean this is. Was this thing even used? Other than being abused, was it even used? You could knock the burr off of here for performance. Yeah, there's a bit of a burr on there. We could do that. Yeah, let me clean this up. Clean around here a little bit. Then I'll blow it out. We don't want any compound ever getting into here, right? Because we'll cause problems. Seat looks good in there. And then we'll lap it. Yeah, just quick. And then, so I'll be back. And we want to face this too a little bit. I'm just going to work on cleaning in here and doing my thing. Just blast down around the corners. Yeah, you don't need much. Yeah, that's good. That's clean. All right, I'm going to finish up with something a little softer. I don't really need to do too much with this. That's it, fellas. I'm going to go run these. Go run them on the wire wheel, but they're really not dirty. There's nothing wrong with this. I put a little Scotch-Brite on this. There's a little carbon on here. And then we're just going to run a Scotch-Brite over a little bit of liquid something. And then here, I would just wash this real quick in some solvent. And then blow it off. If you want, you could get rid of some of these little burrs here. Let me see. Just going to go in with this guy real quick. Just on a turnaround. Don't hit the seat. That's all. Nothing to it. All right, now looks real good. Let me blow it out and spray a little bit of. I think we'll just use a little bit of WD after I blow it. This has got a little bit of a burr. All right, that can catch pre-ignition situation. Let me just remove that, okay? All right, we'll take one of these cartridge roll. Just roll it around. Let's see how that feels. Yeah, that's good. Done. All right, like I said, I'll blow it, and I just want to blow some WD-40 through, right? And then we'll come back, and we're gonna. I think we're pretty good here. There's really nothing to do. We'll just wipe the seats down with a little WD-40 too before we hit it with some compound. All right, I got some bearing guard, Cleveite 77. It's assembly lubricant. Anyway, let's just take a quick look at this. Now, in my experience, I've done a lot of motors, high performance, regular, and I've taken them apart. And usually when a valve, a particularly exhaust valve, is running at a better temperature, more correct temperature, this will be more of a brown. If you get to the gray or really white brown, like a very light brown, it's too hot. This is all carboned up. And again, we can see there was leaking going on here. That's not gasket material. Okay? That's actually staining. Let me bring it a little closer. So, this was not running well at all. And there's a lot of carbon buildup. And we look at the other one, this other head, it was pretty good. So, this may not be an overheat problem. We do see other signs, but this itself tells me that if this was running really hot in this area, then it's unlikely that it would be this carbonized, because that carbon would start to burn off. You know, these motors are notorious for having just it's Chinese, very questionable build quality and assembly quality. So unfortunately, because of that, fellas, I am going to have to say that you really don't know. You can't really just say, well, it's one thing or the other in some of these cases. You know, Briggs, it can happen to Briggs. I've seen it happen also some of the Briggs where it can happen is the valve guide will move and cause the valve to stay open. Now, we'll pop this off later, maybe at the end of the video or whatever. Anyway, we're ready to do an assembly. All right, let's take a look at the head with the valve popped, the seat popped, right, and the valve. Now I'm going to mess around with the gain on the camera a little bit. Now the first thing I want you to look at, this is your exhaust, this is your intake, all right, and you can see how it looks different, and this is more coating on it. In fact, there's even blue. Now look down here. All right, it looks like an oil stain, like when you drop oil on water, like an oil stain. And then there's even a little bit of coating down here, which is, you know, carbon, because it's burning, like in your pan. And then you can also see some bluing here, right? And you can see a little bit here. Now let's gain up a little bit. So this is a lower gain, about as low as I can go before you really aren't going to make out the difference. The problem is that as I gain up, all of these surfaces here, right, they're going to get really bright. So just to train your eye, and look at how clean this is, right? And yet no coating, no oil slick type look. And I want to keep you dialed in pretty tight. All right, I gained up a little bit. Now you may start to see a little bit more of the bluing, the discoloration. That's one of the problems with some of these cameras. This is not my better camera, but this camera is set up and it's lighter. It does have the better lens on it. It's lighter, so I could put it on this lightweight stand and get an overhead view. I think you can see it. Let's go in tight. Come out for an overall, right? And you can see it now. And I think what we have is bluing from heat. So, again, theories, but that's what we're working on, is to try to do a bit of a diagnostic. Now, let's look at the other valve and notice how clean it is, relatively speaking. There's no real bluing in any of this area here. Let's back out a little. Because we're getting close to the minimum focal length. Every camera has a minimum focal length. And lenses really is what does that. So you can get a macro lens, which means you can shove everything up real close. And it will be in focus. So we're really at the edge here by zooming in like this. So this is, I just wanted to show you that, guys, this, fellas. And well, let's move forward. Maybe you could see it a little bit more. Look at it. Look. Arch, me, you cut it out. Hold the damn thing steady. Let's go look at the other camera. Hold on. Yeah, that's a little bright, but this way you could see. You know, shiny things, fellas. Hmm? You know, it's not 100%. Like, but we were able to grab some of these threads. I think I see a piece of steel left in one, but that's okay. Leave it. Right? It's grabbing it. Let me turn that light down a little bit. So we wanted to run this through one more time. The valve just looks terrific. So let me butter up the valve. Yeah, we don't need much. One more time, just to, because the first run, like I was saying last night, that really is just about getting the seat clean. So if you're going to be particular about it, right? So we're on the exhaust, which is kind of dark. And then we'll run it through. Just quick. Yeah. Do I have, let me get a little piece of wood. Nothing fancy here, fellas. And then we're going to assemble it. Now, I still don't have the head gasket, but that's okay. And what you're doing is you're moving it back and forth, or in and out, really. And that just allows the compound to sort of lay back down on the two surfaces one more time. And you'll hear the difference. And go slow. I'm not putting any pressure on it, fellas. All right? I'm just pulling it in. And then finish up with allowing the, because you're hearing the difference, but some of that what's happening is the compound is actually breaking down, and it's getting a little, just make sure you don't put any burrs here from your chuck, so everything is all lightweight. If you wanted to, you could actually put a little piece of something on top of that to protect it, like a little plastic sleeve or something. Let's take a peek. I think it's going to be good. Yeah, the difference in the color of the compound. It's not as, oh, I can see it already. Yeah. Yeah, that's a big difference. Wow. And by the way, this will also turn up cracks. Like, you can have a crack in your seat, fellas. And if you have a crack, you may not see it right away. Oh, and that's a problem. You know, usually if it cracks enough, it'll fall, the whole seat will fall out. But they're brittle. Yeah, this is beautiful. Let me show you on this camera. Done. Let's look at the seat. And we'll go to the other camera too. All right. Now, repeat the process. Should be good. Now this has to go gently through this top piece here, this thing here. That's an intake seal, right? Because you don't want any oil from up here or oil mist getting into the intake valve, because you'll burn it and it'll smoke and that'll affect emissions. Well, but it can come through the exhaust valve. But the difference there is that, yes, it'll affect emissions a little bit, but it won't affect the charge in the combustion chamber. And that's a big difference there. Here we go. Oh, not tight enough. Yeah, let's try and be ginger. Ginger left. Actually, my friend Liz just left. So now I can go back to work for a little while. All right, I'm gonna go work this for a little bit, fellas. All right, and this can get boring. After I'm done, I'm gonna wash everything down and we'll take a look. All right, probably just a little thinner diesel. You can use at this point your parts washer, whatever you got. It's nice and clean, and you can see better here. Look at how nice and bright and gray all that is. And the same thing here. I'll show it in the other camera as well. Just beautiful. And this one was so clean. Take a look in the other camera. All right, I'm just going to take a little bit of my assembly lube and just dress it. It's thick. What's nice about this is you can put it around all the machine surfaces, and the real benefit of this stuff is storage. So let's say, because a lot of us will build a motor and we're not ready to put it in, and this stuff won't come off. Like if you just use oil, like yeah, you could just assemble this with some oil and put it on and you're done. But you know, you're putting it on right away. Like you're putting everything back together, you're putting the part on. So then just like a 20 weight oil or something, that does feel a little bright. Yeah. As soon as I get my fingers back, I'll just smear it around everything. But the oil will come off quicker. It'll come off all the different surfaces a lot faster. That's good. So this will kind of protect it from oxidizing. I don't have the gasket yet. It was supposed to come yesterday or the day before. That's what they tell you, right? And then it doesn't. So hopefully we get it real soon. Let me change that a little. So what we're going to do after this is we're going to turn the cameras around at the engine. And we're going to take a close look at that, and we're going to get that set up to receive this as soon as it's ready. Okay, now let's put just a drop of, where's my regular oil? This is like 2050 or something, 2030. Anything decent. Yeah, let's go in this way. Just to get some oil in there, regular oil. And I guess we'll do one at a time, you know, because that's the only way, because I don't have two pairs of hands. All right, let's see. We got to get it set up. That's decent. Now we put the spring on. and then this guy. But we kind of have to hold everything there. And this is the pain in the neck part. There's other ways to do this. I think this is probably easier to do when you're just taking it apart rather than assembling it. But let's see. It's been a while. Kind of get that snuck in there. Hold on. Because this is kind of too big, this tool. This is really good for cars. But let's just see. There we go. What's nice about this kind of tool, if you get it right, if you adjust it right, it should lock. But we got to get the right length. The idea is to get it to lock. And I think it's just getting a little hung up. Okay? Yeah, it's a little hung up. There we go. Once you get it to lock, you can get the tool to lock, free up your hands, and you just basically slip this lock in. Because remember, it fell out, see? It'll sit in that pocket, and then you can just slowly let the tool out. So, you know, nice tool. Actually, it needs a little tweaking. Yeah, that's not quite where I want it. There we go. Whoa, almost lost it. Okay, and we can put that lock in. Now we can let it go. Yeah, I need to open up. I need to open this up a little bit more with the screw. Right, that I put in there. It's got a nut on the other end, so I have to loosen it up. It's a little too tight here for this valve keeper. But not hard to do. That's it, we're done. Just make sure that the springs are in their seats. Like that one was a little off. And you can even put a dollop for your rocker arm. The rocker arms I'm going to clean up. I'll get everything ready. But let's go turn our attention. Okay. Sweet. Let's go turn our attention to the engine. All right, fellas, now we have a head that we can work with and we can install. By the way, people make fun of me sometimes. So many YouTubers, myself included, we know what we're thinking, but we don't know what the hell we're saying. I certainly don't, right? Because I'll say a word, and it's not really the word I really want to say. Live with it, okay? Sorry, right? I'm not retaking it. It doesn't work like that. We're not like super professionals. We're on big budgets, and there's people with cameras around, and it's quiet on the set, cut, right, cut. No, it's no good. Retake, clip, right? Take number 6,553, right? That's not happening, okay? I'm not doing that. Anyway, we're ready for the next part, all right? I know it's a lot of parts of the series, but look, fellas, that's the way it is with these things. If you want to see how I work and how much is involved, you know, it might even be, right, that you watch all of these parts and then in your neighborhood, somebody's selling a Cub Cadet or whatever with these motors, and you're like, no, I don't want it. And the guy's like, yeah, $800, $1,000. And you're like, no, I don't want that. Let me take a look at this thing first. Hold on a minute now. What did you do to it? How long have you had it? You know, I like them. I actually like these machines. And I got to say, they're actually pretty cool. The one thing I don't like, and before let me get you out of here on this. I really like the automatic transmission. It's a sale point, because I deal with a lot of people that are like up and coming, right? They just bought a house and they need lawnmowers and tractors. And so I like to train them on everything and make sure they're good to go. And they may not be mechanically inclined. And one of the nice things is the automatic transmission. So you got, other than the clutch and the parking brake, that you're going to find on all of these things. But once I get them through that, it's nice to be able to say, look, you see this thing over here, right? Is neutral, right? Here's forward and here's reverse. And it's just like in their car. And then press on the pedal on the right. And it's if you want to go faster, press further and press harder. And that's a nice sales tool, and it won't necessarily launch into a wheelie if you go slow. Unlike some of the older ones where, like I tell people, let the clutch out slow. Let the clutch out, wheelie. And they're like, I'm like, hold on, right? They don't hold on. So that's a sales tool, and that's nice. And I actually like that. I think for a smaller property, it's a good idea. Problem is, if you got a big property, I wouldn't want to leave my foot on that. There's quite a bit of spring pressure on that. If you really got a big property and you got to I don't think there's any kind of cruise control or anything. I wouldn't do that. Like, what would you? Like, mine actually has like a brake. Like, my big tractor has a brake. So if you put the brake on, you have to press the pedals down and it'll take the brake off. But there's the cruise control on it on mine is like you put you leave the throttle where you want on my Sunstar, and then you put the drive and you engage the drive. And if you want to stop that thing, when you go to step on the brake, so if you like panic and you go to slam on the brake pedals, it will disengage the drive. Or you can just pull the drive lever back. I didn't look to see if there's anything like that on it. I don't care. Although I do like the machine. We do have that other one. And stay tuned for the next episode because we're going to get this thing together sooner or later, fellas. It actually comes out pretty nice just as a teaser. And but we have a lot more stuff to fix. I will see you on the next episode. And thanks for watching this episode of Archer's Garage. I'll see you guys later.